So I might run through these intros real quick so that you don't have to keep listening to me. So welcome to the Bay Area Book Festival's program, Follow Your Heart to Graphic Novels. I'm delighted and honored to be joined by these wonderful graphic novelists today. Wahab, Algarmi, Huda Fahmy, Mary Shyne, and Gene Luen Yang. I am Elaine Tai. I'm a supervising librarian here at Berkeley Public Library, and I'll be moderating our panel discussion. All right, I'm excited to introduce our panel. So Wahab Algarmi is a writer and comic artist in the San Francisco Bay Area. He's a recent recipient of one of the inaugural grants from the City of Oakland Cultural Affairs Division, the Algarmi Foundation, and the East Bay Community Foundation for his comic work, Town Force One and the Battle for East Oakland. His debut graphic novel, On the Sunset, has a great blurb from fellow panelist Gene Luen Yang, who describes it as funny, endearing, and an intimate look at a Muslim family. Huda Fahmy grew up in Dearborn, Michigan, and has loved comics since she was a kid. She taught English to middle and high schoolers for 8 years before she started writing about her experiences as a visibly Muslim woman in America, and was encouraged by her older sister to turn these stories into comics. She's a National Book Award finalist for her YA graphic novel, Huda F Cares, which was a follow-up to Huda F For You, and precedes her new volume, Huda F Wants to Know, which is really wonderful wordplay and the best titles. Mary Shyne currently lives in the Bay Area, where she works at All Things Snoopy at the Schultz Studio, which I really want to learn more about. Her comics have appeared in the Nib, Electric Literature, and Surad, and her debut young adult graphic novel, You and Me on Repeat, involves, as described by other Bay Area Book Festival speaker Wahab, stupidly teenage and deeply human choices that lead them into a pocket dimension of space-time, which is very unique. All right, and then Gene Luen Yang writes and sometimes draws comic books and graphic novels, right? Who's he? He was named the National Ambassador for Young People's Literature by the Library of Congress in 2016. His many renowned titles include American-Born Chinese, Boxers and Saints, Secret Coders, The Shadow Hero, Superman Smashes the Klan, the Avatar The Last Airbender series, and the latest title, Lunar New Year Love Story. His nonfiction graphic novel, Dragon Hoops, received an Eisner Award and a Prince Honor, and he currently has a very cool mural titled Bay Area Hoops at the SF MoMA. Thank you all for being here today. Let's do one more round of applause. And apologies, I usually don't go so fast. I felt the need to. All right, so starting with the basics, could you each introduce a bit about yourself and the featured book we're talking about today?
Starting with me?
If you want.
Okay. My name is Wahab Algarmi. I am a cartoonist from the Bay Area. I've grown up in the Bay Area my whole life. This is my library. I grew up here. Happy to be here. There's a really rich comic history here, and it's just something that we all love to do, and I eventually met Gene out here, and we've just been doing it all our lives. This is my first published book. I'm super happy about it. It's called On the Sunset. It's loosely based on my family and my faith, and my son's trying to fast for Ramadan, so all the anxiety that comes with that as a little kid, trying to fast and do other things that kids do. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Huda Fahmy. I am also a cartoonist, an author. I started off as a webcomic artist. My stories are online. You can find them at Hassan. And I kind of, when I became agented, my agent asked, do you have any YA books that you'd like to pitch, possibly? And I said, no, I have a title, and I knew immediately what title I wanted to use, and what better to talk about than identity, which is something that a lot of young kids struggle with. And so Huda F came about, and then right after Huda F I decided to write about Huda F Cares, which is more about Huda bonding with her sisters. It's kind of like a forced bonding, like her parents tell her that friends come and go, but your sisters are forever. And so they bond on a road trip, and then they bond at an amusement park, and she makes some bad choices, but she ends up learning from them. And then I also wrote Huda F Wants to Know, which just came out in April, and after talking about the importance of family, Huda F Wants to Know, her parents get divorced. So it's like, maybe her mother was upping family because she knew there was going to be like a fracture coming up, and so that's kind of what Huda F Wants to Know explores, what divorce looks like in a Muslim family and how Huda kind of processes it through like the stages of grief. for the loss of a family unit. And that's kind of what my series is about.
You're going to read that new book. Sounds so good. I'm Mary Shyne. My book is about two teens caught in a time loop on their graduation day. And I just always really liked time loop stories. Groundhog Day was like my dad's favorite movie growing up, and I like Back to the Future. Yeah, and I wanted to kind of like read. I'm from the outside Chicago, the northwest suburbs, where all John Hughes movies are set. So I kind of wanted to set something in background, but kind of update it for a modern audience. And I wanted to draw people kissing. So that's how this came about.
My name is Gene Luen Yang. I'm a cartoonist from the Bay Area as well. I spent a lot of time in Berkeley because I went to college here. And this is really where I got connected with a community of cartoonists, including Wahab. I think I never got to go to art school because I had immigrant parents and they would just not pay for it. But I think of that time in Berkeley, hanging out with those young artists. We used to be young, as my form of art school. Yeah. My most recent book is Dragon Hoops. This is actually the paperback version. The hardcover version came out in 2020. It's my first and only nonfiction graphic novel. I followed a high school basketball team out of Oakland, the varsity men's team of Bishop O'Dowd High School. Have any of you heard of Bishop O'Dowd High School? It's a pretty famous school. I used to teach there. I taught computer science there, so I had nothing to do with the high school varsity basketball team there. But for one season I followed them. It was incredible. I was never a basketball fan before that. Nowadays I am a casual fan at least. I understand the thrill of the game. And I did a whole book about that season because it was just so phenomenal.
Awesome, thank you. And I think something interesting about this panel is I feel like we have a range of books, both in like the readership age range as well as topic, but they also connect in interesting ways. And I want to explore some of that later, but I kind of want to also just talk about like the driving force and journey for these books. And this is a long lead up, I apologize. So you can see how giant that paragraph is. So I believe all of you wrote and illustrated these books versus, being the writer and, not illustrating, vice versa. In a lot of ways, what I glean is that you all achieved something really major, either in terms of the impact on the readers, in terms of representation and story and emotion and humor, but also as like a touch point in your own careers potentially. Like Gene is actually talking about, becoming a full-time cartoonist or, like graphic novelist in the book. And then, Mary Wahab, these are, I think, kind of your big debuts, even though you also have other storied careers. And then for Huda, having this like 3-volume set, right? And so, TLDR, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of investment and commitment. If I draw one thing, that takes it out of me. So like, what spurs your drive or passion, especially when you're deciding what stories you're telling? Like, what made you decide to like go all in on these stories? Like Dragon Hoops especially did seem like that took a while. And so how do you decide when you're like, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to tell?
I mean, I kind of think that cartoonists are broken people inside, right? Because doing a comic takes so long. I have a fairly simple drawing style. A lot of our cartoonist friends will make fun of how I draw because I draw so simply. But even with my simple drawing style, a page can take me anywhere from 4 to 8 hours to finish. Right? I don't know how it is for you guys. So that's a large chunk of your life that you're spending by yourself in front of a drawing table. And I personally think that if most of us could do something else, we would do that other thing. There's something broken about us that compels us to sit at that drawing table to do this for hours and hours and hours at a time.
Yeah, I was just talking about this with my boss the other day. So I saw this Miyazaki documentary clip going around online where he's like, somebody's asking him, "Oh, are you enjoying yourself?" And he's like, "No, I'm miserable." And I was thinking about, drawing doesn't make me happy, because happy is kind of a fleeting emotion, right? But it does feel like the most right thing. Like when I am drawing, it feels like this is the correct mode for me to be in, and I'm always just waiting to get back in at home,
I don't know about you guys, I've been doing multiple projects at the same time, So because I hate myself. My agent is like, I'm like, oh, I'm so tired of writing about, I don't know who she is, I want to say Huda, I don't know who that is. I'm tired of writing about this character, I need something else to work on, and then I'm like, oh, I need another thing to kind of work on, and my agent is like, my eyes are twitching for you, like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know, there's energy, I have energy, and I just need to just do, but I'm also like, it's not like a fun thing, I don't know, it's just like, it's like you have something in you, you gotta get it out there, and you gotta put it on paper. But yeah, it's not relaxing. It's not like sitting on the countryside, you know.
Yeah, but when I'm relaxing, I'm like, I'm gonna get back to drawing, you know?
I don't know.
They're all lying to you. I've never met Mary, I've never met Huda before, but I can guarantee you they absolutely love what they do, and I love what I do. This is the best. I've been, like, you know, Gene said, I'm old, we're old. I've been making comics forever. This is my first published work. I shot my shot and I took it and I was like, I'm gonna do whatever I can do to make this happen, so I did it.
That's awesome. And I love the range and self-hatred present in his answers.
I love it and I hate it. Yeah. Like it's a really lovely. I would never change it for anything.
And that's how you know that you've got that drive, that you want to do that, right?
Yeah, those are not, I don't think they're contradictory, right? They're not
Not
contradictory at all.
mutually exclusive.
Yeah, we're giving some really good advice for the young kids.
It feels like
right
having
now.
kids, doesn't it? Like you love your kids, but they drive you crazy. That's what it feels like. And it's like super meaningful. Like having kids is super meaningful. You love them, but it's also like it sucks every little bit of marrow out of your bones.
Like seeing
So
the finished
comics are
product, like seeing the finished result of like this story just existed in my head, and then to see it like go from beginning to like really rough summary to a thumbnail to like to see that finished end and to feel like, oh, I did something, I did this, and it's out there. It's amazing. It's a high. It's amazing.
Being able to like click between those stages when you go, okay, here's my thumbs, and it's layered on my pencils, and it's layered on my inks. Oh, I could look at that all day.
I love a good before and after. It's like,
Oh, yeah. Well, and then, so I'm also wondering too, because obviously there's the creative side and like what you want to tell, but then there's getting published was a whole other beast, right? And so were there any interesting like opportunities or challenges? And then, you know, you're talking about like, I love and hate it, you know, having it there and then having somebody critique it and be like, can you change this page and this page and this page? Which again, in the drawing, I'm like, oh, you want me to redraw this? Like that would kill me. So I'm kind of curious, like how was this for you in getting published and going through that?
For me, I think, nobody told me this going into it, you know. Everyone talks about getting an agent and that important part, but really to me, the most important part is having an editor who understands your vision and who replies to your emails in a prompt fashion. And I think I thankfully, you know, first hit, I managed to get a great editor who all of his feedback is constructive, and if I don't agree with something, he listens to me and I can push back on it. What do y'all think?
Yeah, when I get the edits back, and she'll be like, oh, you know, this is missing, I need something to tie this all together, and one time she sent me like, long edits, and I was just like, it's gonna add 200 pages to this book. Like, what are you doing to me? Like, you want me to explain all of that in like, how? I don't know what you want from me. But then my mind goes into like, oh, there's problem A that she's asking me to fix. You know what, I'm just gonna get rid of the problem because I'm the writer, and it doesn't, you know what, it doesn't have to exist anymore. Like, it's just gone, problem solved. I don't have to figure out how she gets out of the thing, because there's no more thing for her to get out of anymore. But you know, I'll get those edits, and I'll have to like rework some things, and I know they know what they're doing, and if I need to push back, I will. But for the most part, it's like, oh, this is why you get paid, like to do what you do. Like, she's helping definitely make it better, more cohesive, and so it's a part of the job that I didn't I didn't have anything to prepare before that. So I feel like I take criticism well, though. Do you get a lot of edits?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think having a really good editor give you feedback is super critical, because sometimes they're so deep in your story you can't really see it. You know, you lose track of like the bird's eye view of your story, and a good editor can help you do that. I do think, like I said, hanging out with those young cartoonists, including Wahab, that really was my art school. I started as a self-publisher. You don't really have editors as self-publishers, so we kind of used each other as our editors. I remember doing this like comic seminar in a warehouse. Do you remember that? Yeah, and Jesse Redclaw's, yeah, so Jesse Redclaw is a friend, and this was the 90s, and he lived in like this artist loft where they took a warehouse, and everybody built like little tree houses and tents inside of the warehouse, right? And there was like a common area in the middle, and then a bunch of cartoonists, we all gathered together, and we critiqued each other's work. We did it once a week for months, right? And that was like before you can, if you can't get a proper publisher with a proper editor, that sort of a setup I think is just so critical.
That feels so like quintessentially arty too. Like, oh, a bunch of us all met in this art loft, and we all met and talked about things.
I think the main point, don't get lost in like art loft or anything, you know, highfalutin like that. I think the real thing Gene is trying to say is find your community, find your friends, find the people that you can work with. For me, all my past work, I've worked with other friends. I never did the art. I knew my strength was in the layout and the story ideas. And a lot of my stuff before this was nonfiction, goofy, action-adventure stuff that I just loved. And my friend loved it with me, and we tag-teamed on it. The really crazy thing about this book is, when I started it with my friend. He did at least 22 pages that we were trying to sell to publishers. When we sent it into our agent, he looked at it and he gushed over the art. He's like, this is amazing, this is brilliant. Oh my gosh, you know, why were you... I was so worried that I was going to work with 2 people instead of 1. Usually he works with 1 person. Halfway through our meeting with that agent, we realized he had never opened my friend's PDF. He was just looking at my layouts. So, and you know, no disrespect to my friend, his stuff is gorgeous, amazing. But my agent was like, this is a really personal story. He's not Muslim, he's, you know, he's Filipino, Catholic American. So he's like, this is your story, you should do it, and you can do it. And I was like, you sure? So, you know, I ended up doing it, but the friends, the community that's there, total support. Find your community, you're gonna be great, and you're gonna do what you're gonna do. That's the best. Highfalutin or not, you know, loft or warehouse or whatever, you know, doesn't matter.
That art loft was pretty dope though, right? It was pretty dope.
Sounds like Breakfast Club for artists. I love it.
I do sometimes see like, there'll be social media posts of like these meetups in the East Bay, and I'm like, how do I get in that? Can I be invited? Because it's like, I think there really is a very cool, close-knit community here. And then meanwhile, I think y'all tell very unique stories in unique ways. Where am I going with this? I'm trying to think. I mean, I think, like, for instance, we'll have, like, my coworkers have been raving about your book because it's talking about an experience that we feel like we don't read about, right? And so I am curious, I'm like, do you feel like, you know, when you're looking at things out there, and is that also going into your mind when you're like, do I tell the story? Because nobody else has told it, you know? And I think that's kind of a question for all of you. Like, is that something you're thinking about, or is it just that I'm telling my story?
For me, because it was a religious story, I was a little nervous. I'm not the most religious person. I do fast, I do pray, but I'm by no means an authority on my religion. So I was always worried that I'm going to say something incorrect or write something incorrectly. But it's still my personal story. I didn't want to define anything. I think it's a big thing sometimes in the back of books to have like a glossary and to explain things, but I didn't want to explain anything. If you're a Muslim kid and you grew up like this, you're going to understand everything. If you're not, and you're just looking at this book, you're going to get a nice glimpse at what our life is like, and it's going to be fun for you. And if you want to learn more, you can absolutely learn more, but this isn't the place or the time for that either. I'm not trying to define or tell anybody what to do or welcome you into my religion either. This is how we are. So for me, it was that. And there wasn't really pushback or anything like that. And my editors and publishers, they didn't know anything about this world, so they just had to trust me, which is a really big thing to say as far as like, you know, like the title, the translation in Arabic. And they're like, you sure? I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. Like, all right, this is going to get published, it's going to get printed, thousands of copies. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. So, you know, mad props to my publisher, Harper Alley, where they, you know, took everything, and then sometimes it would like Google Translate or something like that, and it would come up wrong, and I'm like, no, it's fine, trust me. But yeah, it's a lot, and you just try to do your best with it as far as you can, and hope for the best.
Like, you include Arabic in there, so when I was reading it, I was like, and there's no translation. Like, I understood it. I was like, oh, it just felt like a little secret, like a little, a little thing that it was such a nice thing to see without, like, no asterisks or anything like that. And it's how my grandmother would have talked to us, too. It was like the grandmother's talking to him through FaceTime.
But also, do you need to understand that
No,
Arabic?
but you get it. You get the context. You understand what she's saying. It was just beautifully done. It was nice. Something that I don't normally ever see. So even in my own books, I will like write it out in English because that's how we write. Inshallah, I'll write it like that instead of like in Arabic. And I thought that's so beautiful that you wrote it in Arabic. And I like that. I wrote mine for a little bit of both. Like, did I write it because I felt like nobody's really writing this story, or did I write it because it was my own unique story? And it was a little bit of both. I don't know how else to write about a young Muslim girl except to be like very authentic about it. At the same time, I knew that this was a story that nobody really gets to hear, and so I wanted to be very authentic, very unique, and at the same time sensitive, because I know that this is going to be maybe the first time a lot of people are introduced to like a Muslim girl's experience growing up, and so it was a lot of fun to write for her, and I tried to write, and sometimes I found myself veering off and I was like trying to write for a different audience. I was so honored to have a great editor and a great publishing team who would bring me right back, and they're like, no, like they were the ones that were correcting me, like, no, you don't need to like write for that gaze. You can be as authentic as possible, and it was like a breath of, thank you, okay, I can, and I will. It was nice. Because we always have that, I don't know, it was like, I feel like I need to try to appease an audience to make sure it's successful, and they were like, no, you're good. Stay true. You're fine. That was really nice.
That's really great.
That's awesome. For me, I feel like my story's been told a lot, but I think when I talk about being inspired by John Hughes movies are often set in the northwest suburbs of like Evanston and the more affluent suburbs. So I wanted to kind of set it in more of my hometown. It's kind of based off my hometown of Des Plaines, Illinois, which basically is like lurking right above O'Hare Airport. And yeah, like I wanted to explore more how in high school you began to just see how different cultural differences and different class differences really affected how you were seeing something versus how your friends were seeing something. And I remember in high school I would get into like arguments with friends or like accidentally offend them, and I wouldn't understand why. And like thankfully I had friends who were like patient and would like explain it to me. Thank God for them. But yeah, I just wanted to get more into the nitty gritty of it than like a John Hughes movie does. A John Hughes movie, except for maybe Pretty in Pink, but still, that's like, it's just all white people there, and that's not my experience in the Chicago suburbs. So that's what I wanted to kind of update it from my own lens,
For Dragon Hoops, when I first proposed it to my editor, I proposed it as a story about a coach and his assistant coaches and a team of players all chasing after the California State Championship. I was not planning on being in the story at all. And then as I was working on it, I decided to put a prologue and an epilogue with me as a character in it. After getting some feedback, not just from my editor, but also from like a group of cartoonists. So what Wahab and I did when we were in our 20s, we actually had that in my publisher. So at First Second, there's a crew of cartoonists that will get together on Zoom periodically to look over each other's work. Out of that critique group, they said you need to put yourself more into it. Me being an outsider to basketball allowed people who, their idea was it would allow people who weren't necessarily interested in the sport to kind of enter into the story. So it ended up being a lot more autobiographical than I was planning it to be. And to be honest, I kind of think that that's actually one of the strengths of comics as a medium, of graphic novels, is that I'm biased because I'm a cartoonist and I'm a graphic novelist, but I kind of think graphic novels might be the most personal medium within the modern American medium landscape, right? Like if you look at movies are tending to go towards like big action and big franchises. Graphic novels, like the most popular graphic novels, are really the most personal stories. Like Raina Telgemeyer's Smile is an incredibly personal story, right? And there's something about like seeing the drawings from somebody's hand, like personal drawings from somebody's hand, that I think really builds this relationship between the reader and the author and the cartoonist that is pretty unique within the graphic novel format.
Yeah, and I think you sometimes kind of break the fourth wall a little bit in Dragon Hoops, is that correct? And
Yeah.
a little bit, which is really fun. And again, it's really interesting because again, like many of us know Gene Luen Yang, and this is, you know, and I'm going to ask a question later. I'm like, there's a lot of teen angst, there's a lot of Gene angst about, you know, in these stories of being like, can I do this? And like we know Gene as like, yeah, you can really do this. And so it's exciting to see that, but I think. Like, I always love looking at the facial expressions, and then like Mary, in your book, there's so many different details that I absolutely like need way more time to look at, need rereads to look at, you know, but all of you too, it's just like, there's so many details, like even, you know, you're talking about, you're like, I'm not like trying to present my expert view or anything, but you are just presenting what reality is, and it's a reality that not everybody sees, and so being able to see that there drawn by you is really wonderful. And like with Huda, I love that the sister who's mysterious is just an outline of dotted lines, which also works really well for comedic effect, because I had actually almost forgotten that when I read the new book. And when they tell the sisters that they're getting a divorce, and there's just the image of the four sisters, it kind of looked like the mysterious sister had just vanished. Like, was like, I'm done, you know what I mean? So.
He asked if she was okay with that. She insisted on not being in the book. Again, these are fictional characters that I tried to tell my sisters. And she was just like, I don't want to be in it, take me out. No, they're going to know who that is, they're going to know who that is. And she's a very private person anyway. And she was actually fully drawn in the first draft. She was fully drawn. Facial, yeah, no. And she was like, no, take me out. And so I was like, perfect. I have a solution, and it backfired because my editors were like, can you do a spin-off of just her? I'm like,
Yeah, because there's I think occasionally there's a mouth, maybe?
yeah. Giving her a little more expression.
Yeah, but otherwise, and so she does often look like she's just like, I've passed away and I am somewhere else, and I don't know, to me it's so funny for me.
I feel like in some families there's just that one family member who's just so private. Like she had an appendectomy and we didn't know. Like it's like she was 17. She just disappeared in the middle of the night. Yes. My mom took her in the middle of the night. We're like, what happened to her? Where is she? Like, no, I think she was just like, and we ended up, I mean, obviously we figured it out, but she was just very, very private person. But she was also like a super loyal, like she's such a loyal sister. She has her own personality, she has her own interests, but she's just like incredibly private in her real life. So it's just, we're like, we've come to just respect that and you know, we understand that now, and you know, she exists. I'm sorry, but yeah, people have come to me and they're like, I'll see reviews, I know, don't read the reviews, I know they're not for others, but like, why is there a dominant person that's never explained? That's like in book 3, I'm like,
that's so funny. Like, it's just good. It's just like funny to be like, here's this other person.
Yeah, it's such good cartoon language. You
Yeah.
know exactly what it means.
Right. That's what I love about it.
You can't do that with other formats and so on.
And so, like I said, teen angst, Gene angst, how, like the experiences that you're kind of presenting forth in the book, like, are those kind of true to like what you felt when you were younger? Like, you know, like where's that thought process coming from when you're writing that portion of it? And then, no, I'll ask the other question later.
Oh.
Any of you.
Sure. You were saying, is it more the kid or myself? I think
Or
a lot.
like both. Is that your history? Is that your, like, you know, where are you writing from in that?
I'm writing a little bit from my son's perspective and my own perspective. The great thing is, in the book, he struggles to talk to his friends that he's fasting. He kind of hides it, and in real life, all his friends know what fasting is, know what Ramadan is, and that is a great thing about our culture is a little bit more open now. There's more of a community here now in the Bay Area. But when I was younger, I struggled to find my own community, the Arab American community. So a lot of people didn't know what fasting was. Even today, like my friends don't know, when I'm fasting or what it is. So a lot of the character is me, and not really my son, but it's set in a modern sensibility. He's named after my actual son, and a lot of the things he does are him. But the way he behaves is probably me personally, and the reactions he gets are from my perspective, from when I was a kid.
I like to keep a distance from myself and my character, and a lot of people are, did that really happen? Did that actually happen? And some of it, yes, but a lot of it is based on that she gets a lot of closure in these books that I maybe never got in my real life, and it's just, I wrote it that way to give, as like a, here you go, your mommy loves you, She loves her, she's my best friend, I love my mom. But it's like, it's, especially like Huda wants to know like the relationship between Huda and her dad. I don't have a relationship with my dad right now. So it's like, she gets to have one with her dad, and it's at the end, and it's something that, they're working on. It's a lot more positive, and so I do, but like, her sarcasm, a little bit of her wit, her quick jokes, those are based on my, that's how I respond.
Hilarious.
Oh, thank you. It's kind of like how I respond to trauma. So yeah, but it's like, it's okay, that's how she is, and that's how I am, and in that way. But a lot of it is based on, things that have happened to me, or that have happened to people that I know, or that have happened like in the headlines. Like in Huda F Cares, there's a kid who brings a radio or a clock, I can't remember which one, because I switched it in real life. There was a kid who ended up getting like in trouble at school, and they brought the cops because he brought a clock that he built to school, and they thought it was a bomb. And so I wrote that in the story as well. And Huda F Cares was originally a 9/11 story, and I think my editors were like, the kids don't know what that is, which is like, oh, like they're like, that's like a blip in a paragraph, which is like, that's what I grew up as. That was when my idea of identity was fully kind of put into question, and so I had to change it. So that was, again, it didn't happen to me, that no kid actually brought in a clock or anything, but it was based on headlines. So it's a balance, for sure.
Yeah, this whole idea of sort of using fiction to give yourself catharsis, I totally relate to, because obviously this is very fiction. It's kind of based after my hometown, and Chris O'Brien, the main character, is kind of based after me, but I mean, he makes a lot of the same mistakes that I made in high school, but because I have, hindsight being 20/20, he's able to react to them in a more mature way than I did at the time, and I have regrets, and Chris is the way that I've been working through those regrets, so that's
And doing redos, right?
Yes, and doing redos.
You just get redos every day.
I just need to get caught in a time loop.
Right, that's
People
it.
I beef with,
Yeah,
obviously.
and it's like a rainbow time loop, which I thought was fun.
But yeah, so it's definitely very inspiring. And even like Alicia, she's based off of a lot of friends, but she's also based after my mom, who was the oldest of 7 kids. And so she was taking care, she was kind of acting as a proxy mom a lot of the time, and I just wanted to kind of get that into the story as well.
So the Gene character in Dragon Hoops is definitely based on my life. A lot of the struggles that he has in the book, throughout the book, he talks actually about struggling with writing this story. And everything that I was struggling with, I try to put onto the page. He has these conversations with his wife in the book. Those were all paraphrases of actual conversations that I had with my actual real life wife. My wife is actually very private as well. Sounds a little bit like her sister. So she had a hard time with being a character in the book. It took a lot of convincing for her to let me do that. And for a little while she was like, you can put me in, but can you just use a different name in the book? And then I said, if our friends read it, they're gonna think like I'm cheating on you, right?
My wife is over there cracking up. She's right there, everybody. Yeah. I had to redraw every line of the wife in the book because she was like, she looks too much like me. So it changed completely. I'm like, well, how about just we keep the nose? Can we keep no? And I'm like,
All right, so Sorry, I'm later doing this now. Does anybody have any questions? If they do, I'm gonna have the mic up here. Yeah, please come up if you can.
I do a lot of work in Bangladesh at the university there. And students don't like to read books, you know, they are into their games and into their computer. And I think this is an answer to promote reading. And I'm wondering, is there some great database where I can find, you know, books for their age? I mean, I think both of your books would be interesting. It's an Islamic country, obviously, and I think that would be interesting. But is there some place I can find graphic novels for their age group, university age group?
I mean, the first thing I thought of was Goodreads. I think if you go into Goodreads and you type in graphic novels, and then I think you can filter it even further. I think the middlebury, they've come up with a great list.
Okay, great, thank you. Perfect.
I'd like to pitch your local library.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I am reading Medea, a graphic novel, well, it's not a novel, a graphic myth for my local library.
Awesome. Thank you.
Libraries, bookstores, comic book stores, just walk in and everybody would be so happy to help you find what's right for you and your audience.
School library journal as well is a great resource.
You guys can, if you guys have questions, you guys can line up.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a lot faster for everybody if everybody else has a question. Unless this is the last question, which would be embarrassing.
Y'all talked a lot about community and like helping to build a community as you're writing and creating. Do you have any advice, especially for younger folks in the room, of like how did you start to find that community? What are places that you might recommend to creatives who are interested in like being with other creatives for feedback and things that you mentioned?
For me, like, where I go for community a lot now is Discord. I'm in a lot of like comics Discord communities, and then I'll like kind of vibe with somebody on Discord, and then we'll happen to be in the same area or the same convention, and we'll meet up in real life. I'm like, okay, we're friends now. But also just, I mean, before that community existed, I would just go to like local art events and like go to your local coffee store. They usually have a big board with art events, life drawings you can go to. And yeah, I know sometimes it was very scary for me to do that a lot of the time, kind of break out of my comfort zone, but just push past and kind of like have an icebreaker and go for it.
Raina Telgemeier just came out, and Scott McCloud, they just came out with a book called The Cartoonist Club. And so if you're talking about like younger kids who are hoping to create a community, I think that book is so helpful in how to kind of start a club at your school for like-minded individuals who want to kind of, and it just starts really small. Or we'll get on Gene's Zoom call and we'll just hang out with your friends. I think that's like a really, I thought that was like such a nice way, like you just kind of create a club, put out like flyers, and like-minded individuals will come, and I like the, like art, like there's cons all over, there's art cons and art fairs, and putting yourself out there is so important.
Hi, I maybe have 3 questions. We'll see how this goes.
You got 2 minutes. So.
Okay, well, the first one you might have already answered, but I'm curious, this around having a unique voice versus what's already out there. Like, how much research do you actually do to see, like, oh, maybe someone else is already expressing this story in a way that represents you? Or I guess I'm curious, like, I feel my voice is unique, but maybe it's really not, and I'm trying to navigate that insecurity.
I think that it's okay to say the same thing again, and I think that the deeper you dive into your own story, the more unique nuance will come out. But if you feel like you're like conveying the same message as another book, I don't think that's something to worry about. It's okay to say the same thing. Like humans are dumb. Like we forget things all the time. It's fine to remind humans of something over and over.
How many
and over.
retellings of Cinderella do we have? Like Jane Austen adaptations. It's okay. Like, and you do your unique voice is you. You are the expert of you, and you are incredibly unique. And I think no one else will ever have told your story anyway. I mean, even if you do write the same story over, it's never going to be exactly the same.
But also don't gauge success by the reception you get to that. So you're like, oh, I need to find something new so people will like it. I think if you come from that angle, it might not work out. But if you just have fun and do your thing and not worry about anybody else, because a lot of my other comics are just goofy, fun stuff that I do, that I love, that I want to see, that I'm not worried about what anybody else does. I once did like a 5-volume comic about my best friend crashing out on on a car. It was for nobody. It was for myself. It was the weirdest comic, but I still did it. So don't worry about success as much. Just do your thing, and don't worry about if you're copying something or doing something else. Just make your thing, and then hopefully success will find you.
Also,
later.
like, people love genre, and genre is all about repeating familiar tropes. That's what book talk is always on about, right? And like, just for example, when I was reading your book, I was like, oh, it's set at a theme park. My next book is going to be set at a theme park, but it's totally different, right? Like, everyone.
I'm like, time loop. I want to write a time loop.
I got to read that story.
Mary literally came on here and said, this is like Groundhog's Day. This is like Back to the Future. So.
Yes, and those comp titles, publishers want that.
Thank you for answering my question. One more really quick one, just because I know some of you, you mentioned starting out as a webcomic, but you were in a totally different field at one point. And when it comes to art and drawing, I know you said you've informally done that, but not coming from like an artist background, how much did you feel you dedicated before you felt like you were really, from stick figures to what your current art looks like? What did that process look like?
I hate my own art. I don't know how you guys feel, but like, no, it's
The fact that you call your art
I
stick
feel like,
blows my mind.
no, it's like,
So
that's really nice of you to say. That's really nice of you all to say. I actually think that's not what you're trying to go for, right? It's like, this is how I talk myself into drawing comics, is you're not trying to go for pretty pictures. Because that's not, like I don't feel like I can do pretty pictures, I'm really good friends with this guy named Derek Kurt Kim. You know his stuff?
Yeah.
Like it's so bad to be friends with Derek Kurt Kim because he draws so well. He draws so well. But I think what makes a successful comic is actually that connection between you and the reader. Sometimes if you make your drawing prettier, but it's inauthentic, you are actually ruining the connection between you and the reader for the sake of something that isn't important in terms of how successful your comic
I
is.
can't even draw hands. Her hands are blobs. Her hands are blobs. And that's okay. And people are like, wow, I like your choice. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's because I don't know. I did a school visit. I did a school visit once where a student came up to me and was like, do you want me to teach you? I was like, yeah, that would be great. And then she taught me how to draw hands and it was so easy. And I was like, thanks.
Yeah, and I literally sat here telling you guys, like, I wasn't prepared to draw this. And I found myself in a position where it's like, okay, I have to draw this. So you kind of have to do it. And it doesn't matter. You think you're ready, you're not ready, you just keep doing it. I didn't know if this was going to get published or if it was going to get finished, but you just keep working and finishing the work that you have to do.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what we were talking at the beginning, right? You just feel compelled to make it, and even you don't have to look at it once it's done, right? You just keep making it, and you're just naturally also going to get better. Or I don't even think better is the word. It's more like closer to your authentic style. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot, I think that's what's cool about the webcomics too, is we see a lot of the basic stuff, right? Like, is it like XKCD or, whatever? It like is very basic, but it's telling a story, and there are picture books like that too. We do need to wrap up, but let's do your question. Do you want to come up here real quick? Okay.
What is your usual process of making a graphic novel?
You got 10 seconds to answer that big question.
No pressure. All right. Speed round. We'll start going.
Usually I'll draw first. I'll do the layouts because I used to work with other people. This time around, because I had a publisher and they were paying money to print it and everything, they asked for a summary and like I just had to sit there at a Google Doc, like a boring homework assignment. But in the meantime, I'm also like doodling on the side. And then I do layouts, and then I do finished inks, then I color, and then final edits and send it off. So it's very, very straightforward. But I work straightforward too. Like a lot of people like to eat their dessert first, do the fun pages. You guys do that sometimes? No? I go straight. I go through the whole book and just work straightforward.
Yeah, a summary, which is about like beginning, middle, and end. You have to give them the full story, and then I do outlines, like so and then I will script it out, so it'll be like page 1, panel 1, and it'll kind of explain what's happening in each panel. Then I'll do what's called thumbnailing, so I'll kind of storyboard the entire book, very rough sketches, and then I'll start sketching out, because it helps me lay it out, and then I can sometimes realize I need to change some pages based on the flow. Then I sketch, then I ink, and I pay somebody to color, because I have kids.
And I think is it in the back of Huda F Cares that you actually lay out your
There's
whole
a
process.
layout and how I do it in Huda F Cares.
Yeah.
That's basically exactly my process, so.
Yeah, I have the same process as Huda.
Um,
Are you going to do it? Do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Do it.
You'll be able to talk to them after too, because I know we're really rushing right now. Yeah. Write your own comics. And we always try to do like comic things here as well. We have like a Comic-Con in the fall. Gene has been there. Wahab will hopefully be there this year. If you all feel like driving down. Well, no, you're far. You can come. Yeah. But okay, sorry y'all. I've gone long. And so again, I want to thank everyone. I want to thank our panelists, Wahab, Huda, Mary, and Gene. Thank you so much for coming today. And I want you to understand, like, these questions were more general. All these like graphic novels and stories go real deep into things. Dragon Hoops was so much different than I expected it to. They're like complex, but also universal stories, right? So they're just amazing. Once again, we've got books available for sale from Eastwood Books out there in the historic lobby, and they will also be doing signings. So please head out there, and we will see you there soon.
One more time for all of these wonderful authors, everybody! And your moderator, Elaine Tai, thank you so much for